All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Hill Country Alliance Night Sky Preservation Fund information session. My name is Dawn Davies. I'm the Night Sky Program Manager for Hill Country Alliance, and I've gone ahead and put the agenda in the chat. We're just going to do an overview today of the Night Sky Fund webpage, go over the guidelines for application, review the application form, and then we'll open up the floor to questions and conversation. We may go the entire hour. We most likely will go a little bit under, but I have a fairly open schedule, so I will stay along on the call as long as possible, as long as necessary to answer any questions and field any concerns that you all may have. But I appreciate you all being here today. We are recording this for posting to our website for folks who aren't able to make the call today, and for us to go back and review to make sure we've covered all of our bases. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to start off looking at just the Night Sky Fund webpage. And please feel free to unmute yourself if you do have any questions in between. We'll obviously open it up for discussion later, but I know how hard it can be to remember your questions waiting until the very end. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question as we go along. So this is our landing page for the Night Sky Fund. We have our press release that was sent out to our media contacts earlier last week. And if you scroll down, front and center, a link to the application, which we'll be going over in just a few minutes. And then this slider here, we have a link to the guidelines for the fund, our information about today's virtual session, info session, which is where we will most likely post the recording from this session for folks. And then if anyone on this call or anybody who's visiting our site wishes to donate to the fund, they can do so. So to give a little bit of background from the get-go, so this fund was launched last year during Hill Country Night Sky Month from October 1st to October 31st. And it was really a means to provide our Hill Country residents, our partners in night sky preservation, our advocates, an opportunity to receive a small amount of funding for the work they do. As a lot of you are probably aware, there's all manner of funding out there and available for every other type of pollution there is, but light pollution, funding grants for night sky preservation is very few and far between, if at all. So we really wanted to, at the very least for our Hill Country, for our region, make available this reimbursement opportunity for our local nonprofits, for sole proprietors, for small businesses, for municipalities and communities, for our advocates to fund invariably, hopefully, some work that does progress their general momentum in improving our night sky quality. And so, as I mentioned, this is a reimbursement fund, and we'll again go into that a little bit later. So it is a situation where the applicant will be required to pay for the expense up front, and then we'll submit their receipts for reimbursement. Another portion of the site we've added is our frequently asked questions site, and we are continuing to add to these, especially after our info sessions. But should any questions come up and be of major importance to everybody, or be one of those questions that everybody seems to inherently ask. So I'll pause here for a moment and see if anyone has any immediate questions about the website. Otherwise, we'll jump into the guidelines. Very good. All right. So the guidelines are fairly straightforward. If you applied last year, if you considered applying last year, you may have seen this. Not much has changed too much on this. However, obviously the application window, we always try to do this during Hill Country Night Sky Month. And I'll also make a note here that we initially weren't certain we were going to be able to make this a reoccurring fund opportunity, which is why there was probably a little bit more late notification. Fortunately, we have been given the green light to make this an annual opportunity and have this fund annually moving forward. So in the future, so in 2026, we will have more information available for the 2026 application window in advance obviously of October, and this webinar will take place in September to give folks an earlier heads up and a lot more time to prepare and consult with their groups or their governing bodies. All right, let's see. So a little bit about us. I'm guessing most of you on this call are familiar with Hill Country Alliance, but if not, we are a nonprofit conservation environmental organization in the Hill Country. We work across 17 counties. You'll see a lot more listed both on the guidelines and on the form. And that's because in our Night Sky program, we work with a fair number of counties that border those 17. So for those of you that are familiar with how far light pollution can be seen, those light domes and light sky glow, it just doesn't stop at the border of those 17 counties. So we have included counties that we've partnered with that we know are active in night sky preservation efforts. And so it brings the total number of folks that can apply across the board up to 22 counties. So again, a little bit about the fund. It is a reimbursement fund. So that means that you will be reimbursed for the expenses that you've provided at least an estimate of in the form. And we require that those expenses be incurred in the 12-month period following this. So the window's open from October 1st to the 31st. Our committee will be convening following that throughout the month of November to make decisions, and then we will announce the recipients in the month of December. So that period of expenditure is open for the calendar year of 2026. So unfortunately, this is not applicable, or you cannot be reimbursed for expenses that you have already incurred previously. And we will have some notifications throughout the year to our recipients to check in, see how things are going. And we'll have some deadlines set for when we need to obtain those receipts so we can process payment reimbursement timely within the calendar year. And you'll see we've got a pretty small list, but again, the target goals are really focusing on lighting improvement, obviously reducing light pollution. So that can be, in various forms. So whether it's education and outreach, whether it's securing sky quality meters, whether you're a group or a community that's applying for an international dark sky place. We've had some past recipients who have used that for the application fee. Or anything there within. And as we'll go through the form, you'll see that there's a lot of room for expanding upon your project. And we, of course, are willing to, consider variations that are not on this, and that's listed further in the form as well. So there is a fair bit of criteria. So obviously the expenditures must be for night sky preservation. With regards to applicants who are supporting an international dark sky place application, we do need to receive confirmation that that community or that park or that reserve has started and initiated that process with Dark Sky International, because it is a rather lengthy pre-survey application for Dark Sky International. So we'll need to at least ensure that you're in communication with them and that they know that you're pursuing an international dark sky place designation. We do also ask that if you are looking to do a outdoor lighting retrofit or a new installation, that fixture, that series of fixtures does fall under the Dark Sky Approval Program. And I've linked that here. Hopefully, let's see. Can someone confirm for me that this has jumped to the Dark Sky website? I want to make sure that my window sharing. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So that link takes you to this page of the Dark Sky approved section of Dark Sky International. And from here, you can search by products and companies pretty easily. They've got it broken down by company, by type, by retailer. You can actually search by color temperature or whether it's residential, and it's a very extensive list. But we do request that you at least can provide some idea of what type of fixture you're looking to utilize when you complete the application form. So that way we can review and make sure that that fixture or that installation material is on the approval list. And then, of course, with regards to color temperature, we want to make sure that any sort of lighting retrofit does comply within the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting, that it does meet all of the requirements of Dark Sky International and is under that 3000 Kelvin color temperature and fully shielded. And then there are some cases where folks may be looking to just add shields to already existing lights. And again, we would just want some kind of confirmation that the shields that are being purchased are compatible with those light fixtures so that there's no concern of hazard or fire or electrical damage. And then for those that are looking to use the funds for a lighting retrofit within a local business or within an HOA, we do ask that they consider and be prepared to apply for and get recognized under the Hill Country Alliance Night Sky Friendly Lighting, Night Sky Friendly Business or Neighborhood Program. Most of you may already be familiar with the Friendly Business Program and maybe not so much with the Friendly Neighborhood Program. So that is linked here. And this is a very basic overview. There's also a link on our website to a document that could be provided to an HOA or a POA that just denotes the policy language that they would need to include in their guidelines or their bylaws for consideration. And then as you saw back here on the homepage, we do have a couple of neighborhoods that have been already recognized, and we try to promote and applaud and highlight those neighborhoods as they are recognized. So then, of course, it says down here, if for any reason you are looking to use these for a purpose that is night sky related that we have not taken into consideration, please include that and all information on the form. Obviously, this is as much information as we can provide that we think fits all of that ticks all the boxes with regards to what you could use the funds for, but be creative, think about new and different ways that we could work towards clearer skies. And we will definitely be reading through these applications very thoroughly. And again, over the course of the next 3 weeks that we have in the month, feel free to reach out to me at HCA, and I make sure and put my email in the chat if you need it. If you have any questions or concerns or just want to kind of discuss what it is you're planning and make sure that it meets with all of these criteria. These are the 22 counties that are included. And we just ask that all the applicants have either products or services or offer the work that they do with regards to night sky preservation in at least one of these counties, if not multiple ones. Again, we've listed a few options for as far as eligible sample projects for funding. And then, of course, if anybody wishes to contribute to the fund, anything that we get into our Night Sky Preservation Fund just means that we can give that much more money out in the coming iterations as we roll this out annually. So last year we had a total of 9 recipients for 11 projects that represented services, education, outreach, and programmatic projects across 7 counties in total, hoping we'll receive many more applications this year. And we do not require that you don't apply if you already received last year. So we do encourage, if you applied last year and received a grant, if you applied last year and did not receive a grant, it doesn't matter. We want everybody to have an opportunity to get their project funded and receive the support that they need. And we will go through, again, those applications accordingly. And we have a committee that has been chosen that will help us to review this. And then on here, we just have a link to both the fund application, and you can also send any questions or concerns to info. Otherwise, you can send it to dawn@hillcountryalliance.org. So I'll go ahead and pause here and see if there are any questions. Very good. We will jump on over to the form. Oops, here we go. Is everyone seeing the form all right? No, you're not. Okay, I'm going to stop.
We're looking at the dark skies.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, let me stop sharing and I will start the share again. All right, how about now? Awesome, thank you. So this is done in Google Forms, which means you don't have to necessarily have a Gmail account to complete this form. However, if you do, the Gmail having a Gmail email will allow you to save the form as you go through it. So in other words, if you enter a few bits of information and want to come back to it later, it will record and save that content. And I've kind of created just sort of a template here, but just very simply point of contact, mailing address, email address, phone number. Now, this does not necessarily have to be the same as the person who is applying. So if you are filling out the information, but there's going to be a different person who is going to be the point of contact or managing the project, should they be chosen as an awardee, then that information would go here. Then we just want to get a sense of, and actually I'm just noticing, let's see. This is showing me, here we go. So we want to get a sense of, what are you all about? So we do have a list of the eligible applicants here, the counties that are involved, and then just want some general information. We do have character limits on some of these, so you don't have to go completely overboard and write whole long diatribes to just give us a basic overview of your organizational purpose, the project description. Here we've selected all of the counties, but obviously you would select the ones that apply to you and your services or the product that you offer. And if you do have another county that you participate in or that offer services in, feel free to enter that as well below here. That way we can track things. And if we wind up getting a lot of applicants who do work in a county that isn't on our 22 lists, we might consider adding them for next year. And then we ask that you denote your organizational structure, or if there's a different category. Again, there's a lot of options for other here. And then if you do have a website, if you do have a federal tax ID, those are optional to add. Here's where we mainly want the meat of your project, of what it is that you're looking to accomplish. So if you have a name for it, feel free to enter that here. Otherwise, you can make it very generic, very general, just something that identifies roughly what it is that you are looking to accomplish. And then here, this is actually clickable, so you can click multiple focuses. So if you are looking to have a project that works across, multiple purposes and focuses, you can enter that. However, we do ask that you try to submit one application per project overall. So if you are looking to do, for instance, sky quality metering, but it just happens to fall in, an already existing dark sky place, you would click here. But if you're looking to receive reimbursement funds for a dark sky place application itself, and you also want to receive money for sky quality metering, we ask that you submit those two separately if possible. Then just providing a simple project summary, and then you can provide a much more in-depth project description. And we try to put in some information here to help guide you as to what that might entail. And then if possible, giving us an idea of your timeline. Again, the timeline, much like the breakdown of anticipated funds, we just expect these are going to be estimates for the most part, unless you have concrete dates or concrete milestones that you've created. But we just want to get a sense that, you've given some thought to this project, you have some deadlines you're working with, you have some focuses, maybe you're requesting funds for an event, that you have that date set, or at least a general idea, even if it's not actual, if it's still tentative. We just want to make sure you put as much information in here that will help us determine the viability of your project. And you can make a notation if it's estimated or if it's a tentative date. Those are fairly flexible. If you work with a specific community or audience that is important to highlight or address, we welcome you to enter that here, including if you are planning on collaborating with any other organizations or entities. So if you're working on an international dark sky place application, but you're also collaborating with, let's say, the State Park Friends group or the local Friends of the Night Sky group, you can include that information here. And then we just want to get a sense of, what will denote the success of your project. And this is generally the project overall. So if what we're helping to fund is just a small portion of that, it's important to denote, this might be, again, funding for an event. And so success would be, having, let's say more than 50 people there, or having 2 to 3 new partners after your event, or being able to educate a wide range of people and education levels. We just kind of want to know what it is that is really going to denote the success of your project, or even just this small portion of the project that you're working on. And then this gets into the nitty-gritty of funds requested. We learned from our mistakes last year to not try to incorporate into this a process that requires you to click on a link and make updates to an Excel spreadsheet and then try to upload it. So we're trying to simplify that process, make it a little bit easier for not only you all to complete this form, but also for us to read it and to go back and review all the applicants. So if you can just provide, this basic information to give us an idea of what the cost overall that you are requesting. So for instance, in this example, we're looking to purchase, some sky quality meters from Unihedron. We know they are going to cost $425 a piece, and we want 4 units. So the total amount we're requesting is $1,700. Or in this case, we might increase that to $1,800 or $1,900 because Unihedron is a vendor in Canada, and there might be potential tariffs or additional fees when trying to get those products shipped. So again, trying to be as accurate as possible with what it is that you're requesting. And again, it might be a little challenging. So we're happy again to help work with you to determine, cost of fixtures, or if you have any just general questions about what to include here. But we just kind of want a basic breakdown of what it is you're looking to use the funds. So again, I guess an example of what would not be appropriate would just say, hey, we want $3,000 to put on an event. We'll probably purchase some branded swag and make some photocopies of information, and pay a speaker for their speaker fee. We'll need a little bit more breakdown on how those funds will be allocated. So again, you don't have to be exacting with regards to, the finer notes here, but we do want to get a general idea of how you tend to allocate those funds. Yes, go ahead, Harold.
Yeah, just curious, to that question there. So if it was something with retrofitting, would installation cost be something you could incorporate in there, or how does that work?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, as we noted here, the only things that this won't cover are salaries, administrative expenses, prizes, things of that nature. That's pretty, from what I know, that's pretty boilerplate across most grant applications. But yes, and as we review this too, I'll be looking at the applications as they come in. So if I see that you've, put in, for instance, this example, I might come back to you and say, hey, Harold, I notice you've requested sky quality meters in your application, but that doesn't take into consideration the mounting hardware for those. Do you want to go back and amend that, or do you want to make a change to that? So, I'd say we're probably a little bit more flexible than a lot of grant applications out there, but really we just want to make sure that your projects are going to get funded, and that it's being done so in a cognizant manner, that you're taking into consideration all the potential extraneous processes to things like installing sky quality meters or installing light fixtures. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Stop sharing. And any questions about the application form itself, or any of the previous content? All right. Any questions in general? Any discussions you guys want to have? Please, this is sort of open forum now to ask away.
Dawn, thank you. That was really helpful. Can you give an idea of the grants that were given last year, maybe the average amount, or if a grant might be negotiated? If we asked for $5,000, would you come back and say, well, we can give you 3,000, that kind of thing?
Absolutely, yes. So we received, like I said, on the form or on the document, we received 20 applications. It was a total of, I think if we had fulfilled all the requests, it was roughly around $60,000. We definitely did not have that much money to give. And we did review all the applications from that perspective, especially, getting a sense of, okay, do we have the ability to fund this program fully? And I'd say probably about 40 to 50% of the time, the requested funds were what was awarded. In some situations, though, we did come back and say, you've requested for 5,000, we are able to offer you 2,500 towards this. So yes, we try to obviously accommodate as many projects as we can while also providing a reasonable amount of support. We're not going to say, oh, you applied for $5,000, here's $50. But we do definitely take into consideration, we had a couple of applicants last year that submitted for lighting retrofit projects where the lights that were selected, the fixtures, were not by any stretch night sky friendly. So unfortunately, those were declined. But again, that's why we try to sort of review the documents, the applications as they come through, to give folks an opportunity to go back and make changes and adjustments if we see some, really glaring issues of concern. But yeah, we try to find that fine balance of funding as many projects as we can, but also not being insulting to what it is everyone's trying to accomplish. So maybe I'd say in the case of, I think at least one applicant last year, they applied for, a large number of sky quality meters, and we were able to fund like half of their request. So at least it gets them started. And hopefully in the future, as we continue to roll this out for a second year, we're trying to do more direct fundraising to build up the Night Sky Fund, such that, I'd love to get to a point where all the applicants that we receive get their full funding as much as possible.
Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else? Oh, go right ahead, Christina.
Hi, Dawn. Thank you very much for today. Just for confirmation, there's no documentation that you're going to need uploaded on that application, as in
No.
resolution or W-9s or any of that kind of stuff?
No, we will reach out. So much like we did last year, once we determined the awardees, we reached out to them directly, made sure that they still wanted to participate in the Night Sky Fund. And at that point in time, we reached out to them for copies of W-9s, point of contacts, confirming mailing address for when, checks do get distributed, and all of that done after the fact. That there is no need or requirement to upload anything to that form. However, you are welcome to include URLs, linked within the form, whether it's part of your project description or otherwise.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that just got too messy last year, so we tried to simplify the process a little bit, learning from our first year of run through.
And I thank you for that. It is very simple, so appreciated.
Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts? And obviously, because this is only our second year doing this, there are, to the best of our knowledge, really no direct grants with regards to Night Sky at this level. There are, I think, a couple that are within, like, the National Park Service, I think, has one that's specifically directed to their national park systems, but nothing to this volume of region and sort of this range of projects. So we're still learning So feel free to provide any creative criticism, feedback on both the website, the web page, the guidelines, the form, or this process in general. We want to make sure that this is something that is accessible for folks, that is a simple, streamlined process that doesn't create any barriers for groups or businesses or organizations or communities to apply. But we're still learning. So definitely welcome any thoughts folks have on this process so we can make it better next year. All right. Well, I will stick around for as ever long as anybody needs. You're waiting for folks to drop off and ask questions, but thank you very much for attending our info session. I look forward to reading all of your applications and look forward to being able to hopefully fund your projects and advance our work here in the night skies and the Hill Country.